my name is PKnapp, and I will be presenting to you on packaging value chain and creating a circular economy with ocean plastics, with emphasis on inspiring from the top. I'd like to highlight the 3 R's in value chain in this presentation: use, reuse, and recycle, and apply them to value chain. So first, I'm going to address the circular economy, which is a new tactic that's being looked at for mostly packaging recycling in the packaging value chain. This diagram that you see here on circular economy is from Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and first principle is that you deal with raw materials like finite stocks and try to create a balanced renewable resource flow from used materials. Secondly, you optimize your resource yields by the circulation of products and raw materials through the value chain. And then thirdly, you try to minimize any systematic leakages. I will be highlighting managed knowledge, creating shared value, inspiring from the top, and expanding on how value chain will apply to this in clusters. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation, they highlighted 3 strategies to transform global plastics in the market, include fundamental redesign through more thoughtful redesign practices, the reuse of items, and recycling, so reducing plastics that can't be recycled in the fundamental redesign. Additionally, the redesign is targeted at small format plastics, so lids, etc. Innovating across multi-layer films is an option to make those films more recyclable, and trying to reduce the amount of uncommon materials so that the recycling streams won't be clogged up with various plastics. First, I'm going to highlight managing knowledge. There are 3 aspects to managing knowledge in value chain. First, emphasis is on human knowledge, which usually is conveyed through experts in education. So I'm highlighting a company called TerraCycle that is a pretty impractical use of recycling application, but it's more of like a testament to what you can do with materials, and that the theory behind the company is that anything can be recycled, although obviously certain materials take a lot more resources to recycle, so the beneficial impacts on the environment could be actually harmful from doing this recycling. But essentially what TerraCycle does well is they partner with nonprofits, material recovery facilities, and plastic manufacturers to create new technology around recycling new products and packages. For example, beach plastic. So you'll see this beach cleanup list, and they're actually able to take ocean-bound plastic, so anything surrounding coastlines, and turn it into products. Another resource that I'll be highlighting heavily, and that also does a great job and is a great example of how to manage human knowledge, is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. They have a lot of research and backing from other organizations around plastic circularity and creating a circular economy. And then also highlighting the fact that consumer knowledge is part of managing knowledge. And I have another example here with Tom's Toothpaste and TerraCycle, who partnered and created this waste reduction guide for any person, that they can easily read it and understand how to reduce their amount of packaging waste. And structured knowledge. So this is conveyed through explicit rules, behaviors, and routines. Some examples of this are the California and other municipalities' bag legislation, and then plastic sorting in certain geographies, knowledge about that, and how us and municipalities put that out there. This beach cleanup is also an example of the sorting knowledge that can happen through structured knowledge, in that it's has the different resin codes, and it highlights that they're only collecting rigid plastics. Another issue with plastic recycling is a tactic and a social knowledge that needs to be passed on through suppliers. Essentially, it has to do with polymer choices that they choose, the pigments and the additive choices, and why that matters to recyclers. So these 2 graphs down here highlight why that's an issue. It's a major improvement that could be made, as you see here, in polymer choice section, and then as well as pigment choice and additive choice. This is from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation as well, and the World Economic Forum, and it highlights that suppliers need to be aware of how pigments additives, and polymers affect the recycling levels. In addition to the initial polymer choice, which is highlighted in these two graphs, as you can tell, PET is a lot more highly recycled, as well as the impacts of the recycled material versus the virgin plastic are way less on recycled materials, so it's something that we should be using. Another aspect of value chain is creating shared value, and that is really redefined through what we consider productive. So here's an example of infographic that TerraCycle made that seems like a really great concept, but isn't necessarily productive because of, so they're collecting beach plastic with volunteers, which is great, but then they have to ship it to get it sorted and processed, and then they have to ship it again to another supplier to get it processed and ground, and then they have to ship it back to Procter & Gamble, P&G, to make those actual bottles. So it seems like a great idea, but the shared value that this demonstrates in energy and resources isn't necessarily accurate to being a more environmentally friendly product. TerraCycle could create more shared value if they were to utilize local resources to an area where plastic is being recovered. For example, in Haiti, if they do plastic recovery, they could utilize those local resources to also process that plastic. Also, shared value is conveyed through joint company and community value creation. So the example I just gave in Haiti is a great example of that, as well as in this infographic, you can see there's 3 different companies interacting here to create a final product. They clearly had to create an agenda that all of them agreed to and were capable of utilizing, and then realign their company budget to make this project happen. Some example of just how much plastic waste and loss is in plastic packaging material, because we use only virgin materials, so this is like some benefits that they are highlighting, and then trying to create a new circular economy around that. Another big highlight I would like to go over is inspiring from above. So looking at what consumers want, which I think for this example with Loop, which are the first 2 pictures here, and then a separate example with Nestle and Procter & Gamble, is ease of use, and they want less packaging in plastic, but they want the same quality and price. So Loop is a great example of where they've distributed costs across the value chain to allow customers to get that quality and price that they want from those products, with some ease of use of delivery. If you're interested in e-commerce, that's something that you can do. It does increase impacts in that it could create jobs around the rinsing and recovery process, and then also just transparency, highlighting mutual advantage examples from different producers that have taken on the education responsibility to their consumers, and then transparency among large companies. So Nestle's highlighted, and you saw their ad there, PepsiCo, L'Oreal, Mars, etc., are all buying off on these circular economies of plastic. So the UN supporting this plastic contamination, and then governments that have bought off on the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and then employees working to collect plastic that will go into the bottles. Lastly, rewarding significance in relationships, and just creating value for the employees through education. So up at the top is Ellen MacArthur Foundation's access to education for anyone and all, and then how this creates rewards sometimes for the companies themselves through different awards in packaging. And then also PG&E offers a way to use your time off where you can volunteer. So the Procter & Gamble employees that you saw in the picture before are probably getting paid to do this volunteer effort to pick up beach plastics. And then also they offer daycare at Procter & Gamble. Value chain clusters. There's a major cluster of plastic waste in Asia, as you can tell by the top graphic, and most of it's in China. And so China would be a great cluster to look at because they already have packaging technology investments from the government, I know, back in the 90s, and they could use large corporations who want to buy more ocean-based plastics and turn them into recycled packaging in the Chinese area. And so that's a geographic cluster, be easily globalized, as well as a great way to manage knowledge throughout the value chain through the packaging creators, the manufacturers, and the material recovery facilities there. Thank you for watching.